Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to VC Vibes. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. We're Dommisse Attorneys. We're a corporate commercial law firm based in Cape Town. We just decided to start this podcast just to actually brag a bit about what our clients are busy with and the kind of things that they keep themselves busy with, and sharing a bit about their adventures. And today I have with me Thandeka Xaba from Digital Africa Ventures. She's based in Joburg. We won't hold that against her. She's a graduate from UCT. She got a BSc in finance and accounting, and then after that, she became a CA working at Investec, I think, Thandeka, for 3 years before she joined the investment banking team. And then very bravely started a venture capital fund in 2020, which is probably the most challenging time that you could do that. So welcome today, Thandeka. It's a privilege to have you with us. And firstly, how are you guys doing at DAV? How's the year ending for you? Are you busy? Are there a couple of deals on the table? What are you guys keeping busy with?
Oh, thanks so much, SG, and thanks for having me as well. I feel like you've known me from day minus 10, so it's actually very cool reflecting on our journey up to this point. So we're doing really well. Obviously, it's been a tough economic environment the past 1.5 years. So I guess we've just kind of been paddling or balancing two kind of objectives at the moment. The first is supporting our portfolio companies through this period. They're all doing different things at the moment. Some are raising, some are looking to scale, and all those things are challenging in this environment. So just, supporting them as much as we can. Then on the other hand, we are looking into the future, raising a second fund, which we're really excited about if we get there.
Is it the same group of people that started DAV? Is it the same key persons or new people involved there?
So
or is it still a secret?
No. So we've added a partner to the Fund 2 specifically, who will be working alongside me. His name is Scott, and he has quite a lot of experience in investing outside of South Africa. So we felt like it was a really good addition to have to the team, considering that our Fund 2 focus will now not be ring-fenced to South Africa anymore.
Okay, that's exciting. And are you primarily looking into offshore investments that are South African started companies that scale abroad, or is it not limited to that? It would be any kind of investment opportunity in other countries that fits your mandate, essentially?
Yeah, so it's investment opportunities in any African country, and I don't mean any literally, because there's 54, so we have a list in mind. And then still investing at the seed stage.
Okay, cool. I just want to take a step back. You guys have done so well as a fund, I think, in very challenging times. I see that you guys recently won the South African Startup Awards VC of the Year, which is amazing, considering firstly when you guys started this fund, and also just you're very young, but I think obviously quite a dynamic team. So that's really quite cool. But I wanted to just understand from you. So you were at Investec. A lot of people would start something like a journey like that, and I think Investec is an amazing company to work for. So what inspired you to go from that into starting your own VC firms? I think a lot of young people out there might want to know, like, what was the thinking there, and like what inspired you to make that move?
Yeah, so actually, straight out of Investec, I actually started my own startup. So I was a founder first for.
I did not know this. I did not know about that.
Yeah. So I was a founder for a couple of years, building a marketplace platform in the beauty industry, and that was, I enjoyed it because clearly I really have an appreciation for entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs. But I very quickly came to realize that even though I had a functional product and the business was post-revenue, and there was a largely untapped opportunity. That funding was very, there just wasn't a lot of early stage risk capital at that point in time, which was 2017. There were very few venture capital funds in South Africa because it was such a nascent asset class. I think you could name on one hand who you could apply to funding for.
I remember that.
And most of that funding was actually concentrated around more established businesses, so businesses that had millions of revenue. So there wasn't really a market for seed funding in South Africa at the time. I actually, my journey into VC is very serendipitous. I didn't wake up and say, you know what, there's no funding, I'm going to go start a fund myself. But I met people who recognized this gap in the market, who is the SA SME Fund. So they wanted to start one of South Africa's first Black woman-owned and managed venture capital funds. And that really resonated with me because I was, at the time, pre-seed seed founder with not many options after leaving my job. Really, that mission resonated with me from first-hand experience. So I thought, I think a great use of my time and my career would be to try and contribute to building this asset class so that we can actually fund entrepreneurs at that stage, and we don't have people starting businesses and then those businesses closing down due to a lack of funding.
Okay. Yeah, I think SACE Fund has played a massive role there. I know a lot of the funds that they've been involved with, and I think they've played a massive role in that. And I think also, if you think about a few years ago, I think the early stage funding environment was it's still challenging at the moment, but I think it's evolved quite a lot from where we were 10 years ago. So that's fantastic, and also the way that the industry has grown and supported one another. And you mentioned that SME played quite a big role in that. So it's fantastic to know that you guys have felt that support from them and from other people in the industry. So that's really cool. But then. So something that I've always heard is that people say starting a fund isn't as glamorous as you think. Has that been your experience? And what are do you think that's a valid statement? And what are some of the things that you might, if you look back now, what would you have told yourself, the things that you've experienced that might not be as rosy as you thought?
Yeah, look, it's definitely not as easy as it looks from the outside or sounds from the outside. I think a lot of people think you just get a wad of cash and you just get to spend it and it's so nice. It's just like this feeling of being rich, but not really.
Yeah.
And I'd say that investment decision it's a big part of what counts for the success of a fund, but it's definitely not the deciding factor. There's so many things that go into it. Running a fund is not just spending the money, it's you're actually building a business, an enterprise. So a machine that's good at sourcing strong entrepreneurs, pricing correctly, because pricing is so important. And then after that, nurturing those businesses and the opportunities. And then after that, then finding someone to then pay more than what you paid for that investment. So it's a lot of, and then on top of that, managing the back office and the operations of all of this. So it's a lot of different hats. I find it interesting because, when I'm fundraising, I feel like such a completely different hat to when I'm doing post investments or when I'm doing figuring out the back office or the admin. So I would say it's like 5 jobs in one, 5 distinctly different jobs in one.
Yes.
I think, over time, I think the more you get better at those tasks, the stronger foundation you build. And then it sort of has like this kind of domino effect. People start recognizing you for your work and being interested in what you're doing. And what would I tell my younger self, or the version of me that started the fund? I think
don't expect the Porsche after year one or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I would probably say, look, fund one is just it's a CV building fund to some degree. Yeah, you're not going to get $1 billion. If you do get $1 billion, then wow, you're God's favorite. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I think probably back then would be to leverage the ecosystem more. What I'm realizing over time is that there are a lot of incredible people in the ecosystem who want to help and want to support, and you don't have to figure everything out by yourself. So I would probably say, I would tell version 2019 of myself this.
Pre-COVID version.
Yeah, pre-COVID Thandeka.
We were all still bushy tailed and starry-eyed, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. No, and you talk about the ecosystem and knowledge and everything that's available out there. And I know this because I think we were on a SAFCA training event together at some point. And have you experienced a lot of benefit from that? I know that SAFCA played quite a big role in sort of developing an ecosystem or a network of fund managers. But what has that experience been for you? And what kind of value have you received from engaging with SAFCA?
Yeah, so I think another interesting thing that I'm learning is that so much about building a fund business is iterative. And so, you can go on a program in day 0 of your fund, but that information is only applicable maybe in year 2 or year 3.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, so I think that program is beneficial in the sense that it did kind of provide that foundational information and skills for building a fund business. But the theory is very different to the practical. When you actually have to apply it, then I think you're actually drawing from different sources. And yeah, I think SAFCA have been very supportive in that sense of just being a source of learning, being a source of opportunity and support as well, and network actually as well.
And I think you said earlier that you need to be a master of many things, and I think my experience working with fund managers who start new funds is usually one of the biggest factors is actually how strong your team is that you have around you. And maybe tell us a little bit about the DAV team and like what are the different, do you have different roles? Is one of you more LP faith and another one would be more focused on the portfolio, or do you sort of all of you do everything kind of approach? Firstly, maybe some background about the team and maybe just the roles that everyone plays in the team.
Yeah, so I think because of all those different facets of running a fund, you kind of go through a roles forming, norming, storming process, which is like a team evolution and team development. So it took us a bit of time to figure out, who's good at what, who should do what. But where it's landed now is that Nonku, who's my co-founder, she's more focused on post-investments. So she's, working with founders, kind of like developing different plans and programs for each business based on their needs. And I think she's really good with people and kind of, maintaining and keeping relationships. And then Scott, on the other hand, is very good at networking. So he's the sourcing guy. He's meeting people all the time, introducing us to new people. And that helps a lot because, I think the stronger your network as a fund, the better chance you have at succeeding. And then I've kind of landed with the fundraising. I think I was process of elimination. No, I'm kidding, not process of elimination. But so I think similarly, I think also bring a strong network to the team. And also, I think I'm kind of more on the strategy side of things as well. So thinking very long term, it's something that I really enjoy doing, is thinking about the future, planning for the future. So I've kind of been leveraging my network to assist in envisioning the future, but then also leveraging my network to get introductions to investors. So that's kind of how it's split up right now. We don't know if it'll change again. But yeah.
I guess you also, as you said, that evolves over time. As you feel you've got more momentum or more, someone would have more patience with portfolio companies and the challenges that they typically go through. Another person could be better sort of suited to have those difficult discussions with investors and smooching potential investors is not something that everyone can do, but then another person has a skill set for something else again, but that's something you evolve over time. I think you mentioned the portfolio company involvement afterwards. I've always felt that to be quite an interesting transition, because usually there's quite a bit of deal stress while you are negotiating a deal and there's a lot going on. And you can almost see what the culture of engaging with the investee company will be afterwards. And often when we act for investee companies, I say to them, just remember that in that engagement, while you're doing a transaction, remember that after this, you guys are playing tennis now against one another, but after this, you're going to get, one party is going to get over the net and you're going to play doubles. And so you want to make sure that actually the culture that you start creating in the transaction goes on into the portfolio management culture and like the engagement that you have with your investee companies. So I think that's such an important role. But I want to know from you. So people always ask me, how do I deal with deal stress? And I think when transactional work is your life, it's something that you don't do once a year. You do it all the time. And what are some of the ways that you de-stress? Like what are some of the ways that you can recommend to people that you can maybe dial out a bit, or what are your strategies essentially?
For like in life in general, or
no, just stuff that you do to de-stress. I can tell you that in my case, I try to keep the pace keep the pace reasonable, and when I see that I'm not going to make deadlines, I try and communicate that in advance. I take my breaks when I need them. I mountain bike. I like that quite a lot. So I like the odd adventure, outside of work, and that sort of keeps me going and helps me to de-stress a bit. And what are some of the things that you feel works for you to de-stress?
Yeah, so I definitely exercise is up there for me.
You're a runner, hey?
Well, not as much anymore. I'm kind of like doing more strength training these days, but I used to run quite a lot actually.
Okay, I remember that.
Yeah. And then I love music. I've learned how to DJ, so sometimes just doing that is really fun for me. It takes me out of what's happening in the immediate world. And then
DJ,
also,
what kind of music are you talking?
Oh, house music.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Do you play at events, or is it just like something you do for fun, kind of on your own with friends?
I have played at a couple of events before.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but I'm not officially, I don't have a rate card.
Okay. So if you ever have a big VC party where you can be our DJ, huh?
Please call me.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah,
no, I wouldn't want you to DJ. I would want you to kick back and relax that day. Yeah? You would earn that. Okay, but that's very cool.
Yeah.
I think people often underestimate. I think VC work is one of those things where people think, people like me get a term sheet from you guys if we act for you in a deal. You send us a term sheet and you say, well, we have this new investment opportunity. We're going to go for this. Can you help us with the drafting and the structuring of the legal documents? But people often think that, miss the fact that so much work just goes into getting actually to that point. You have to kiss a lot of frogs to get to the prince, kind of thing. And I think that's the same with VC work. You receive so many pitch decks, I'm sure, because I mean, I'm not even an investor. My LinkedIn inbox is a mess because people think I'm an investor. So yeah, I know that VC funds have a massively overloaded inbox full of pitch decks and things. So tell us a little bit about, you receive a pitch deck in your inbox. Like, what's the process that you go through to decide whether it's something you want to take further? What are some of the things that you guys go through as a team, like from that moment that pitch deck hits your inbox until you hopefully sign a term sheet? We don't even have to talk about dispersing and negotiating investment documents, but just the process until you actually sign a term sheet. What are some of the things that you have to do to get there?
Yeah, so I think what's immediately exciting for us is an opportunity in a space that's often overlooked.
Okay.
So if we get a pitch deck and it's like, oh, we've actually never thought about this, or we've actually never seen this, or maybe it's something in health tech, but they're taking a completely different angle to majority of people in solving the problem. That definitely, I think, just piques your interest immediately, because you see so much of the same stuff that someone who's thinking differently, it's either they know something or they have an advantage that other people don't have. And then obviously traction, and not only in numbers, but kind of seeing that up to that point, this business has customers who love using the product. They have almost like some sort of customer loyalty. And they've obviously at this point not raised a lot of capital, so you just can kind of extrapolate that and think, if they can get some money behind them, then they can achieve this at scale. And then, I think for me, my favorite slide is the competition slide, because I love to see it when founders know the enemy, in inverted commas.
Yes,
so
that's important.
There's some founders who can tell you everything about their competition, like things that, are not even necessarily easy to find online. That for me, I'm like, okay, this person understands the game that they're in. Like, it's competitive, and in the end, you kind of want to come out in the top 3 or 5 in the industry, versus like competitor slides that are like all green on the company and then all red on the competitors. So that is really the case, that it's true, but oftentimes that's not true, and so that kind of, to me, alludes to an avoidance. Like you want to kind of build in a silo and believe that you're the best, but you're very afraid to go out there and actually find out what you're up against and understand that really well. So I think those are probably the three biggest things
that would attract your attention. I think that's massively helpful. You mentioned competition now, and I think I can talk about rugby because I saw in your profile that you had a pick of the World Cup there. So
Oh yeah.
So I know I would be forgiven that you wouldn't be too tired of the rugby talk.
Oh no,
but I
never.
think that one of the things that made our Springbok team so strong is that they would analyze their competition in like granular detail. A lot of the effort off the field goes into actually understanding everything about their competition, understanding what they do well, what they don't do well. So I think it's such an important thing for startup companies as well, to really understand, not only to understand where their product fits in, but also to understand like what gaps are there in the market and how they could improve, and maybe how they could edge out their competition. Hopefully, you're not getting more of those pitch decks. I think it's less of a thing now, but people used to say they are the Uber of this or the Amazon of that, and that. I don't think people do that anymore. But
I
I guess
seen
you
it in a
also had your
while.
fair share of pitch decks. I would say that people would sort of leverage of something, another existing company or like a unicorn, and say we are the Uber for Kimberly or whatever the case may be. So I think you're not seeing that anymore, luckily.
Not as much, hey, not as much.
Oh, and you still see it. Okay.
Yeah, it's still there, but not as much. Yeah.
I know that I spoke to the guys at Knife at some point, and they said, "Yo, can people please stop doing that because it's so tiring."
I
Don't
think
want to
what we're
misquote
seeing a
them,
lot
but
of
the conversation was something like, if I see another reference like that, I don't think I'm going to make it." Anyway,
I think what's popular
yeah.
now is AI
Oh yes,
enable like every business now has AI, which is
all these
understandable because
buzzwords, eh?
there are a lot of APIs that you can plug in, but for some people kind of claim it's their competitive advantage, whereas it's actually a product feature which anyone
Yes,
in the world can access. So I think that's
yeah.
probably the next Uber of trend that we're going to see is
Okay.
AI. Yeah.
Yeah, we also, whenever there's a buzzword, I think we also get inundated with things around that. So at the moment, it's AI. It's been AI for a while, but I think at some point, every every young every young guy who's got a garage and a good internet connection wanted to start a crypto fund. I'm glad we
Yeah.
passed that now, because most of
In
those
the
funds,
garage.
people would start the conversation saying, just before we start, this is not a pyramid scheme. Then I
Yeah.
suspect I'll disagree with you, but yeah, let's listen to the rest of it. No, so
Yeah.
that's fascinating. Or maybe I want to know a little bit more about your portfolio companies. Maybe just a summary of like some of the exciting companies that you have in your portfolio, and what's new for any of them. Is there any new developments that you can share? Obviously, some of that stuff is quite confidential, so you don't have to share anything that you're not comfortable with. But maybe just a brief summary of some of the exciting industry companies you guys are invested in, and what's next for them.
Yeah, so where to begin? Oh, okay, so I'll just start at the beginning. So Triple O was the first company that we invested in. And we were the first VC fund in that portfolio company. And yeah, so they've recently closed a round with future growth that is substantially larger than the round we came in at. So
Okay.
that's really good news, because especially considering the macroeconomic environment. So yeah, I think they really kind of what we believed in is kind of playing out in the story. So that's exciting to see. And then we have Lockstat, which is a graph intelligence business. Very smart guys, very technical guys, and they've signed quite a meaningful contract recently, using their technology to support a couple of blue chip corporates. So we kind of, trying to help them see that through. So crossing fingers that we get over the line. But what's been interesting with them is that it kind of alludes to the first point that I spoke to, which is doing something that's unique and then having a competitive advantage in that field. And I think they fit squarely into that space. It's very difficult. I can't really name a lot of competitors of theirs on the continent, and so they do have that advantage when they're pitching to corporate. So that's really cool.
Yes.
And then Tunnel was named the best logistics startup of the year by Startup Club ZA. So yeah, they're very excited about that. They're a logistics company, and they've also recently achieved carbon neutral status. So they even in being in
for a logistics company, that's amazing, eh?
Yeah, exactly. So it's great that they kind of, incorporating impact factors even as early as they are,
Yes.
and kind of not just going, revenue at all costs. So yeah, I think those are probably some of the highlights.
Yeah, amazing. I think remember the Tunnel team, we were there at the premises, and we had a little party there after the investment. And such a nice group of people, but also, it's not often that you find a group of guys that are as driven as they are pleasant people to work with. And that was my experience with them. Very ambitious, but also very pleasant. It's not always that you find that combination. So that was quite impressive for me. Yeah, that's very exciting. And I know that you've got lot more portfolio companies, and you mentioned that you are starting the next new fund. Is that next year? Or what is your sort of horizon for the new fund that you're starting? When do you think you'll start doing investments with that fund?
So we're hoping to close that by Q2 next year.
Okay.
But it's, many people, many processes, different funders are at different stages. So it's
Yes.
managing a lot of interaction. So we're hoping that we can get everyone to that point by Q2 next year. Then at which point we will start deploying. But what we've been doing is still chatting to entrepreneurs, still actively working on our pipeline, so that when we get to that first close, we're not, putting our heads up and then starting to try and meet founders. We're trying to do that now because the quicker we can deploy that capital into really good investments, then it kind of gives us momentum to then go on and raise a third fund.
Yeah, that's very exciting. No, I think it's your timing of starting the first fund was, I think 2020 was probably the most difficult time to start anything. And how well you guys have done despite that is incredible. So I think I speak for a lot of people when I say you are one of the heroes of the industry. You did something that I think a lot of people would not have the guts to do, and you did it so well. And these awards that you guys have received speak for itself. So very proud of you, and it's so cool to watch your journey. And I'm very excited for you guys for the new fund next year as well.
Thanks.
What I'll do is, with Thandeka's permission, I'll share some of the details where they can be contacted. If you're a limited partner looking for VC funds in South Africa to invest in, you can get in touch with them. Or if you are an investee company looking to raise funding next year in 2024, such a nice group of people to work with. And I think, I can vouch for the DAB team to really be a great post-investment partner as well. The way that we've spoken about the importance of working closely with your investee companies afterwards is such an amazing skill that you guys have. So if there's anyone like that out there looking for investment next year, or LPs looking for very dynamic VC team to invest in next year, please get in touch with Thandeka. I'll share their details in the show notes. But otherwise, Thandeka, it was amazing to get in touch with you and to catch up a bit. I hope to see you again when you're in Cape Town, and to hear more about your running adventures and all of that. So all the best with the rest of your Friday, and I hope it goes well. I'll chat to you again soon.
Cool. Thanks so much, SG. And also, from our side, just want to thank you, because you've literally, I feel like you, in a sense, like part of our team, or like an advisory member. I think you've seen it all with us, which is, I think, just so cool to have a person that you can call, you can rely on, will help you think through things. So yeah, just honestly, just thanks for sticking it through with us as well. It's been really, really cool working with you. That's a big pleasure. It's always great to work with you guys. But I'm looking forward to all your adventures that's lying ahead. And yeah, it's always been a pleasure for me to work with you. But here's to many big moments next year, and hope that the new fund setup goes well. Thanks. Cool. Thanks so much. We'll be in touch again soon. Thanks, Thandeka. Have a good one. All right, cool.